Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Emily Carter gazed out at the city from their living room window, a cup of coffee in hand. The golden morning light bathed the room gently, and everything seemed calm and ordinary. Yet, a feeling of unease had settled deep in her chest. For the past few weeks, her husband, Jason, had seemed distant. His smiles no longer had the same warmth, and his excuses for coming home late were becoming more and more frequent. Emily thought it might be the stress of work, the fatigue, but deep down, a doubt lingered. That morning, while searching for a document to pay the bills, her gaze fell on Jason's computer, which was still open. Out of curiosity and that nagging intuition that was gnawing at her, she clicked on his email. What she saw made her collapse. A recent message, barely opened, from someone named Vanessa. The words were clear, intimate, and heartbreaking. Jason and Vanessa had been having an affair for several months. Every line was a dagger, every detail revealing moments Emily thought she had shared only with her husband. The coffee slipped from her hands. The hot liquid spilled onto the table, but Emily felt nothing. All she saw was betrayal. Her mind raced, the absences, the forced smiles, the texts he deleted. Everything took on a new, painful meaning. Home, once the refuge of their love, suddenly seemed foreign, filled with lies. She sat with her head in her hands, breathing hard. Happy memories flashed by like cruel ghosts, their wedding day, their travels, the laughter they shared. All of it now seemed like a betrayed past. Emily understood that nothing would ever be the same again. That morning, in the silence of their light-filled living room, she took the first step toward a truth she feared but had to face. She was about to discover that the most painful secrets aren't always hidden far from us, sometimes they're right next door. Emily Carter spent the morning in a daze. Pale-faced, hands trembling, she tried to concentrate on work, but every movement seemed empty, every noise made her jump. Jason had come home from the office as usual, smiling, but Emily knew now that smile wasn't meant for her. At the breakfast table, she watched Jason silently. The way he cut his eggs, the movement of his coffee cup, the simple clink of spoons, everything suddenly seemed suspicious. She found herself scrutinizing his face, looking for the slightest sign of guilt or deception. "Emily, you seem out of it this morning, is everything okay?" Jason asked, his voice soft but tinged with concern. Emily looked up, trying to hide the inner turmoil. "Yes, just a little tired." But she knew her gaze betrayed the storm within her. Jason frowned, intrigued, but didn't press the issue. All day long, Emily found herself revisiting every recent detail of their lives. Jason's increasingly frequent work outings, his deleted calls, those texts he'd received silently, everything was taking on a meaning she'd previously refused to see. Suspicion gnawed at her from the inside, turning every happy memory into a nagging doubt. That evening, Emily couldn't help but discreetly search Jason's phone. Every notification seemed like a trap. And there, beneath yet another deleted message, she spotted another clue, a recent meeting with Vanessa, labeled simply, business dinner. Her heart raced, her throat tightened. The banal excuses and lies were now taking on a precise and painful form. Sitting on the couch, head in her hands, Emily realized her doubts were no longer intuitions, they were reality. Jason was cheating on her. The house, once a refuge for their love, was now becoming a cage where every look, every word, hid a lie. She stood up, determined. She had to talk to Jason, face this truth, however painful it might be. And above all, she had to decide whether their marriage could survive this betrayal or whether she should take the path of rebuilding and her own freedom. The next few days were hell for Emily. Jason's every move, every word he spoke, every detour in his schedule now seemed suspicious. She watched him more and more, mentally noting every inconsistency, every detail that betrayed the affair he was trying to hide. One morning, while making coffee, Emily noticed a red stain on Jason's shirt, near the collar. She touched it with her fingertips, her heart pounding. It wasn't ketchup, She knew Vanessa's lipstick shade all too well, the one Jason often wore, according to her messages. Anger and hurt mingled in her chest. She felt her world crack a little more. "Jason, what is this?" she asked, her voice shaky but firm. Jason jumped, as if caught in the act. "Oh, it's nothing, just. I don't know, an accident at work, I guess." Emily felt her anger rise. She knew this was serious. Jason's lies were multiplying, and each new piece of evidence only made her pain worse. Every call he received, every deleted message, became a test of his patience. Emily found herself rummaging through his computer, through his belongings, searching for evidence. And each discovery confirmed her worst fears. Jason's absences, the lame excuses, the hours spent working late, it was all a facade. Her memories of the two of them haunted her now. The evenings spent laughing together, the promises exchanged in hushed tones, the plans they had made, everything seemed to vanish, replaced by betrayal and pain. Emily was beginning to understand that love alone wasn't enough when trust was broken. As night fell, she lay awake, unable to sleep. The silence of the house felt heavy, almost cruel. Every sound, every step Jason took in the house, was a reminder of what he had stolen from her, her serenity, her security, her happiness. She knew the confrontation was inevitable. She had to face Jason, know the full truth, and decide what path she would take next. Doubt had given way to a painful certainty, their marriage would never be the same again. Evening came, heavy with tension. Emily waited for Jason to come home from work, her heart pounding, her palms sweating. She had spent the afternoon rereading his messages, piecing together evidence of his lies. Tonight, she could no longer back out. She had to know the whole truth. Jason walked in, smiling, ignoring the brewing storm. Emily stood with her arms crossed and her face set. "Jason, we need to talk. Now." His voice was calm, but every word vibrated with suppressed anger. Jason frowned, concern mixed with surprise. "Emily, what's going on?" She showed him the messages, the details, the photo of the lipstick on her shirt. Her eyes burned with pain and anger. "What is this, Jason? Explain it to me." Jason paled, his smile fading. He tried to deny it at first, stammering out clumsy apologies, but faced with Emily's determined stare, he relented. "Emily. I'm sorry. It started, several months ago, with Vanessa. I didn't mean to hurt you." Emily felt a shock run through her entire body. Her chest tightened, her throat tightened. How could he? How dare he betray all the memories they had built together? Several months? "Jason, everything we've built, what does it mean to you?" His voice cracked, a mixture of anger and pain. Jason looked down, unable to meet her gaze. "I don't know. I made a mistake, a huge mistake. I can't change anything now, but I want to make it right. I love you. I still love you." Emily stepped back, tears in her eyes. The love she felt for him mingled with burning anger. She wanted to believe his words, but every lie, every betrayal screamed in her mind, trust destroyed. The night wore on, but neither of them slept. Emily sat with her head in her hands, trying to understand how the man she loved could have become the man she no longer recognized. She knew this confrontation would only be the beginning of a long road of pain, difficult choices, and facing the truth. For the first time in years, Emily felt that nothing would ever be the same again. The days that followed were emotional chaos for Emily. Every morning, she woke with a weight in her chest, unable to shake the image of Jason with Vanessa. Happy memories now seemed like illusions, and every smile she shared with him became a cruel reminder of the betrayal. She spent her days replaying events, wondering where she had failed, why Jason had chosen to lie. Her thoughts were a mixture of anger, sadness, and incomprehension. Her nights were punctuated by restless dreams where betrayal took 1,000 different forms, leaving her sweating and her heart pounding. Unable to remain alone with her thoughts, Emily decided to confide her turmoil to her best friend, Sarah. They met in a small cafe in the city center. Sarah listened attentively, without judgment, letting Emily pour out all the accumulated pain. "Emily," Sarah said softly, placing a hand on hers. "It's not your fault. Jason made a choice that betrays you, but it doesn't define you." Sarah's words resonated with her. For the first time since discovering the affair, Emily felt a glimmer of support, an anchor in her inner storm. They discussed at length the possible options: confront Vanessa, forgive Jason, try to save the marriage, or begin rebuilding her life alone. That evening at home, Emily faced her memories. She leafed through their photo albums, her eyes lingering on every shared smile, every trip, every moment of happiness. The memories weren't lies, but they were now tinged with betrayal. She understood that to move forward, she would have to accept the pain, face reality, and decide what she truly wanted for herself. This chapter of her life was dark, but Emily knew she had the power to choose her path. The emotional storm continued to rage within her, but little by little, a strength was emerging, the strength to take charge of her life and no longer let anyone break her from the inside out. Emily knew she had to see Vanessa to understand what had really happened. Was this just a fling for Jason, or a serious affair that had lasted months? With a heavy heart and a lump in her throat, she arranged to meet Vanessa at a discreet cafe in the city. Vanessa arrived, elegant and calm, flashing a smile that immediately irritated Emily. She sat down opposite her, sipping her coffee as if they were chatting about small talk. "Emily. I didn't want you to suffer," Vanessa said in a neutral, almost automatic voice. Emily looked her straight in the eyes, her gaze burning with suppressed anger. "You didn't want to? Jason chose you, you lied for months. How can you say that so calmly?" Vanessa sighed, carefully setting her cup down. "Look, this wasn't something I planned. Jason came to me. I didn't force anything. Yes, he chose me, but he chose to betray you, not me." The words hit Emily like a punch. She realized then that the real betrayal came not from Vanessa, but from Jason, the one she loved and trusted. Her eyes filled with tears of anger and frustration. "You were just a catalyst," Emily muttered to herself, still staring at Vanessa. "The betrayal came from him." Vanessa nodded slowly. "Exactly. And believe me, I'm not proud of it. But I never meant to hurt you." Emily stood up, her hands shaking but determined. She knew now that the real problem was Jason and that the decision to save or abandon their marriage was up to her alone. As Emily left the cafe, she felt a strange mixture: anger, pain, but also a sense of clarity. She had confronted Vanessa, understood each person's exact role in this betrayal, and now she had to focus on her own choice: continue to suffer in a broken marriage or rebuild and take back control of her life. This encounter, though painful, was a turning point. Emily knew she could never be the same again, but for the first time in weeks, she felt herself beginning to regain her inner strength. Emily went home that night with a newfound determination. She could no longer remain in limbo, in this mixture of anger and doubt. She had to lay her cards on the table and decide the future of her marriage. Jason was in the living room, sitting on the couch, reading a book. He looked up when she entered and attempted a smile. Emily, standing motionless in the doorway, felt her anger and hurt immediately rise again. "Jason, we need to talk now," she said in a cold, sharp voice. Jason put down his book, looking worried. "Emily. I know you found out. I can explain everything." Emily shook her head, her eyes fixed on him. "No. No more excuses. No more lies." She sat down opposite him, catching her breath before continuing. "Listen to me. I still love you, Jason. But if you want to save our marriage, you have to end this affair immediately and do everything you can to earn my trust back. And I want proof. Otherwise, it's over." Jason nodded, his eyes lowered. "Emily. I promise you. I can change. I want to fix. Emily looked at him for a long time, scrutinizing every movement, every inflection of his voice. She wanted to believe he was sincere, but she knew that destroyed trust wouldn't be rebuilt with a single gesture or a single promise. The following days were a difficult test. Jason made visible efforts. He cut off all contact with Vanessa, spent more time at home, and was more open about his work and his days. But Emily remained on the defensive, her memories and pain still present, threatening to tip everything over again. She realized a difficult truth: loving someone wasn't always enough. Sometimes loyalty and respect were more important than feelings. And now she had to decide if she could rebuild something with Jason or if the betrayal was too deep to be forgiven. This step was crucial. The ultimatum was not only for Jason, but for herself: accept the betrayal and try to move on, or choose her own freedom and inner peace. The following weeks were a mixture of tension and uncertainty for Emily. Jason made visible efforts. He cooked dinner, surprised her with small gestures, and tried to recreate moments of connection. But every smile, every kind word was now filtered by the weight of the past betrayal. One evening, while they were alone in the living room, Jason sat down next to Emily and took her hand in his. "Emily, I know I destroyed everything, but I really want to fix it. Let me show you that I can be the man you married." Emily felt a wave of nostalgia and desire rise within her. She remembered the nights they laughed, the trips, the promises they made. She wanted to believe in him, she wanted to feel that intimacy again. But the pain was still raw, and the fear of being betrayed again kept her from giving in. She stood up and stepped back slightly. "Jason, I still love you, but I'm not ready. You broke something deep inside me. I need to find my strength again, my independence, before I can think about anything else." Jason looked down, finally realizing that gestures alone wouldn't be enough. He had to earn her trust, but he also had to give her space to rebuild. Meanwhile, Emily began to focus on herself. She reconnected with her passions: painting, reading, and her professional projects. Each success, each small step toward independence, was a victory over pain and betrayal. She felt a new strength growing within her, an independence she had never truly known. The temptations, the memories, and the love had not disappeared, but Emily now knew that her decision must be guided by her emotional security and well-being, not simply by the desire to recapture past happiness. This chapter of her life marked a turning point. She would never again be dependent on the promises of another, even the one she loved. Rebuilding her self-confidence and her life was now her top priority. Emily woke up one morning with a strange feeling. For the first time in weeks, she felt light. The pain of betrayal was still there, but she had learned to transform it into energy, into determination. She understood that she could no longer live in the shadow of Jason and his lies. She began by reorganizing her life: her apartment, her routines, her relationships. She reconnected with friends she had neglected, returned to her family with a renewed sense of gratitude, and embarked on personal projects she had long been passionate about. Every small success, every smile shared with those she loved, was a victory over the pain of the past. At work, Emily focused on her goals. Her ideas were noticed, her efforts recognized. She regained a confidence she had lost, a reassurance in her decisions and choices. She realized that her worth did not depend on anyone else, not even the man she had loved deeply. Jason kept trying to get closer, with sweet messages or small gestures, but Emily kept her distance. She knew that reconciliation couldn't be forced. She had to rebuild her own life, her own identity, before deciding whether or not she could ever forgive him. Every night, when she came home, she felt stronger. The pain of betrayal had given way to an unexpected inner strength. She was no longer just the woman wounded by deception, but the one who had chosen to get back up, rediscover herself, and take control of her life. Emily understood that rebuilding was not just a healing process, but a rebirth. And with each passing day, she moved a little closer to the emotional freedom and inner peace she had thought lost forever. One evening, when Emily came home after a long day, she found Jason sitting on the couch, looking serious and nervous. There were no flowers, no gifts, just him, with a mixture of regret and hope in his eyes. "Emily. I need to talk to you," he said softly. Emily paused in the doorway, her heart pounding. She had built her life, her inner strength, but Jason's sudden appearance rekindled emotions she thought she had tamed. "I want to apologize, sincerely," Jason continued. "I know I ruined everything, and I understand if you can't forgive me. But I want you to know that I've changed, and that I'll do anything to earn your trust back, if you let me." Emily looked at him for a long time. She saw their past again, the good times, the happy memories, but also the pain and betrayal that had followed her for months. She felt a storm of emotions, anger, nostalgia, a desire for forgiveness, but above all, an awareness of her own strength. "Jason," she finally said, her voice firm. "I've rebuilt my life without you. I know now that my peace and freedom depend on me. You can be sorry, you can change, but I have to decide if I want you to be part of my future, or if you'll remain in my past." Jason looked down, realizing that words alone wouldn't mend what had been broken. Emily, for her part, felt a new clarity. She had the power to choose. She could either give a second chance or continue to live her independent and serene life to the fullest. It was a difficult choice, but a necessary one. Emily knew no decision would be easy, but no matter which path she took, she would never again allow anyone to define her worth or shatter her trust. Night fell on the house, silent but full of tension. Emily felt her heart opening to the possibility of forgiveness, but it now remained under her complete control, guided by the strength she had rebuilt over the past months. A year had passed since the discovery of Jason's affair. Emily Carter had been through an emotional roller coaster, coping with pain, anger, and disappointment, and most importantly, she had learned to rebuild her life. Every step she took toward freedom had strengthened her confidence and independence. That morning, she stood in front of the mirror, observing the woman she had become. Her eyes shone with confidence, her face held a serene smile. She was no longer the same Emily who had wept in the living room upon discovering the betrayal. She had transformed her pain into strength, and her life had regained a deep, personal meaning. Jason tried a few more times to get closer, to express regret, and to rekindle their bond, but Emily remained calm, detached, and confident. She knew now that forgiveness didn't necessarily mean reconciliation. Forgiveness didn't mean going back, but accepting, learning, and moving on. She focused on her passions, her career, her friends, and her family. Every project she undertook, every smile she shared, every professional success was a victory over the past. The freedom she felt was more precious than any relationship, stronger than any betrayed love. One evening, sitting on her balcony, watching the soft light of the city, Emily took a deep breath. She felt inner peace flooding through her. She no longer needed Jason to be complete, to be happy. She had found her strength within herself, and that was enough for her. The betrayal had been a trial, but it had also been a revelation. True power lies in the ability to rise up, to choose oneself, and to build one's life on truth and self-belief. Emily smiled at her reflection in the window. She was free, whole, and ready to embrace the future, without fear, with a deep certainty. Her life finally belonged to her, totally, and forever.